A woman was attacked by a thug while out shopping. Several hours later, her body was found stuffed into a concrete pipe. Although the crime scene yielded many potential pieces of evidence, none proved useful after careful examination. With several suspects ruled out, the police investigation quickly lost direction. Just as the case was about to stall due to lack of leads, an unfortunate incident involving a female patrol officer brought new hope to the investigators. By analyzing the connections between the two cases, the police apprehended a very deranged murderer. So what exactly happened? Hello everyone, today's case takes place in Woodbridge, New Jersey, located in central New Jersey, just 20 miles from bustling New York City. The city has a population of about 100,000 and is part of Middlesex County. The protagonist, Melissa, was born on the 25th of April, 1969, making her 25 years old at the time of the incident. She grew up in an ordinary working-class family with 7 members. She was the second oldest among 5 children. During school, Melissa was a high-achieving student. However, things changed during high school, when she met a boy who disrupted her life. Unintentionally, she became pregnant and decided to have the child despite her parents' objections, dropping out of school to live with him. Their relationship started off sweet, but deteriorated after their second child was born due to financial pressures and uncertainty about the future. They eventually parted ways. Single again, Melissa still believed in love, and soon fell for another man who unfortunately abandoned them shortly after she gave birth to 2 more children. Despite her young age, she had become a mother of 4. After these painful experiences, she no longer trusted love and decided to raise the children on her own, without further romantic involvements. Melissa lacked education and skills, barely managing to provide for her children, despite her best efforts. Over time, she moved past her heartbreaks and sought happiness again through a friend's introduction to Jose, who was around her age with many common interests. They started living together in an apartment he rented. However, just as their life seemed to be stabilizing, tragedy struck. On the night of the 12th of August, 1994, at about 1 a.m., local police received a call from Jose's city reporting that Melissa had not returned home after going out to buy food. Upon searching for her, he found her lying bloodied in a concrete pipe. The crime scene was near a busy road with ample lighting and heavy traffic, seemingly an unlikely spot for such a crime. Melissa's body showed signs of violent assault, including bruises on her face and torn lower body. She had died from asphyxiation after being violently attacked. No biological evidence linked to the perpetrator was found on her body, though DNA traces were discovered at the scene. However, these did not match any known individuals. Police initially interrogated Jose, who stated that he sent Melissa out for food when their children were hungry and she hadn't eaten at 18:30 a.m. Neighbors confirmed his alibi. The police also questioned the convenience store clerk where Melissa had shopped but found no leads there either. A suspicious worker from the store was investigated but cleared due to lack of evidence. The investigation stalled until a patrol officer, Vicky, in Maine arrested Stephen for drunk driving on the 3rd of April, 1995. During her routine check, she noticed alcohol on his breath and conducted a test that confirmed he was intoxicated. While waiting for backup, an unusual situation arose when Stephen sat in the passenger seat, instead of the back seat. This incident provided new leads that eventually led to solving Melissa's case. Once again, he pleaded with Vicky. But not only did Vicky refuse to agree, she sternly explained the severity of the situation to Stephen. No sooner had her words fallen than Stephen leaped up and suddenly attacked Vicky. Taken by surprise, Vicky quickly lost consciousness under Stephen's assault. After some time, Vicky slowly came to. He found his lower body naked, and realized he was lying in a speeding police car. Vicky noticed the driver was Stephen, and his colleague was chasing him from behind. Seeing Stephen's desperate and vicious demeanor, Vicky realized that if she didn't find a way to escape, he might lose his life. So, he seized the opportunity, opened the car door, and jumped out of the police car directly. After seeing Vicky escape, Stephen was both anxious and furious. Under the influence of alcohol and anger, Stephen's speed kept increasing until it caused him to flip over when turning a corner, forcing him to stop. Following the accident, Stephen was quickly apprehended by the police. Vicky was also rushed to the hospital for treatment. After a thorough examination, the doctors were shocked by his condition. He had black and blue marks on his face from being beaten, multiple fractures in his facial bones, severe tearing of his lower body, and numerous scratch and bite marks on his chest and chin. This heinous crime soon spread across the country. Simultaneously, the Woodbridge police noticed this case. Vicky's experience was too similar to that of Melissa for it to be a coincidence. The police believed Stephen could very well be the murderer of Melissa. To verify their suspicion, they conducted an investigation on Stephen. At 30 years old, Stephen had a history of violent crimes. At 19, he killed his own brother in front of his father. During the trial, with his father fully supporting him, Stephen was only convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 7 years. However, due to overcrowding in prison, he served just 2 years before being released early. After regaining his freedom, Stephen never held a steady job until he met his girlfriend Anna, which somewhat stabilized his life. After understanding this situation, the police questioned Stephen's girlfriend, Anna. She stated that Stephen was very short-tempered and emotionally unstable. On the night of the incident, she had dinner with him at a restaurant. When they were about to go home, they got into an intense argument over trivial matters in the parking lot. During the argument, Stephen hit her. Filled with anger, she called the police. Upon seeing her call the police, Stephen immediately left the car and fled from the scene. A few hours later, he received a phone call from Stephen, who sincerely apologized to her and said many nice things. Confused by his sweet words, she withdrew her complaint against him. After reconciling, they decided to move to Maine for a new start. However, this peaceful life didn't last long as Stephen's old habits resurfaced. When he was subjected to violence again from Stephen, she proposed breaking up with him. After hearing Anna's account, the police checked the call records of that night. The records showed that Anna called the police at 10:30 p.m. on the 11th of August, which coincided with an hour before Melissa's death. With these findings, the police finally identified the murderer. Based on the clues they had gathered, they organized their investigation and concluded that Stephen arrived near the crime scene after fleeing from the parking lot. There, he encountered Melissa walking home alone and attacked her, dragging her to a nearby cement shed, where he committed the atrocity. Although the police now believed Stephen was the murderer, due to a lack of direct evidence, they could charge him yet. They went to Maine to persuade Stephen to confess to this case. At that time, Stephen was in prison awaiting trial for attacking patrol woman Vicky. Upon seeing the police arrive, he showed an indifferent expression. He only admitted to committing crimes against Vicky but denied any involvement with Melissa's murder. Due to Stephen's refusal to cooperate, the police had to find other ways. To quickly obtain evidence to convict him, they sought help from the FBI department. Although such cases were not under their jurisdiction, they still provided assistance. After analyzing both incidents, an FBI investigator believed that the key to solving the case lay in the bite marks on the victims' chins and chests. Like fingerprints, teeth are unique. By comparing the bite marks on the victims, they could obtain evidence for conviction. With the help of the FBI department, the police contacted a senior forensic dentist. After grinding samples from Stephen's teeth, the police obtained a complete sample, which was sent to several senior dental experts for analysis. Their conclusion was unanimous. The bite marks on Vicky and Melissa were made by Stephen. On the 29th of November 1995, Stephen was sentenced to 20 years in prison for attacking patrolwoman Vicky. 7 years after Melissa's murder, on the 7th of December 2000, this case entered trial proceedings. Stephen was convicted of multiple charges, including murder, and sentenced to death. However, the Supreme Court later overturned this verdict. 7 years later, Stephen faced another trial. Coincidentally or not, New Jersey had abolished the death penalty that year. In the end, Stephen was sentenced to life in prison without parole.